Scuba goes under the sea. The podcast for the inquisitive diver.
Hey there, dive buddies, and welcome to the show. Now, before we get on with this week's episode, I just want to share a quick story with you, because I got a call a few weeks ago from my mate Martin at Scuba IQ. Hey, Matt, what are you up to in December? Do you fancy co-hosting a trip with me? Now, of course, I played it cool. Oh, yeah, I might be interested, mate. However, it doesn't take a genius to work out my answer when the trip he's talking about is in the Great Barrier Reef. Woohoo! I'm in. So, we're taking a maximum of 12 guests and we're visiting lots of hotspots such as Steve's Bombing, the Cod Hole, Lizard Island, and we may even be attempting the first floating Scuba Goat podcast. So, if you want to get involved, come along and have a lot of fun and some awesome diving, follow the link in the show notes and grab your spot quick. Now, on with the show. Hey, Stephen. Hey, what we should do is just introduce you to our listeners. And so I'll hand that bit over to you because I think you know yourself better than I know you.
Well, thanks. My name's Stephen Fordyce, generally known as Steve, but I'll answer to anything. I am 36 and I've done quite a bit of stuff in the diving and other spheres. I'm an engineer, but quite a hands-on one, and I've come into my little niche in the diving industry, running my small business TFM Engineering Australia. I do custom gas equipment and things, and I've been known to explain my customer base as the sort of people that have their own compressor.
Yeah.
There's a whole series of things around that.
I did have a look at TFM, mate. You've got an impressive lineup, an impressive catalogue there, I've got to say.
Yeah, thanks. The idea was that it would be anything I kind of felt like at the time. My professional background, I've got a degree in mechatronics engineering, and I worked for about 6 years in industry, actually designing, project managing big industrial gas systems, liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen, giant gas plants and smaller things. So, where a lot of people have come into diving from a teaching background or an air background, I come in from a pure gases engineering industrial background, which is kind of interesting.
How old are you? Because you look so freaking young to have done all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I get that. I just turned 36, I think. 1986. That's when I was born.
Okay.
So I turned 36 yesterday, actually,
or the day before,
something.
Or the day before.
I've just about lost track by now, but and apparently I've got a baby face, which seems to be. It was a bit of a hindrance early on, trying to have credibility, but I've just about got to a point in life where I'm old enough to be taken seriously and sort of like having a bit of a baby face.
Yeah. And how did you get into the diving side of life?
I started off pretty young. I guess I was 20 and just wandering about at Monash Uni, and I saw the Scuba Club, and I thought, oh yeah, that looks cool. I'd already done quite a lot of other outdoor things with the bushwalking club. So I've got a bit of a history of picking up an activity and taking it to some kind of logical extreme. Logical and extreme come in the same sentence that often? in my own head anyway. So I back in 2007-ish, I rocked up to Monash Open Day. I saw the Scuba Club and I thought, yeah, that's cool. So I went up to them and I said, hey guys, give me a pitch. And they talked about how you could rent gear really cheap and you could go off, and they had their own boat, and you could basically at that point, that was when I realised that scuba diving might actually be affordable for me at that point, being a pretty poor, tight student. One thing led to another, and 2 years later I was the president running the club.
Literally in at the deep end.
A little bit, yeah. I got a bit carried away. Did my open water and various other things, and running club suited me really well. I've always been a bit of like to do things my own way, and so the club was a really good way that I could do that. They had a boat, and a bunch of uni kids running around with a boat, and all the dive gear was a really amazing, fantastic thing to be part of. And I threw a huge amount of energy into that and making it really cool. And so I've got lifelong friends that we went through all sorts of trips and things and everything else. So I was a mad ocean diver for quite a few years. We took the club boat, we drove around all over Australia. So I've done all sorts of weird and wonderful dives. As far as Perth, we took the boat to Tassie, we took it up to northern New South Wales and all over Victoria. It was a fantastic thing to do at uni when we had time, not so much money, but we did some fantastic things.
How'd you manage to do all your study with all this mega travelling going on? It's pretty impressive.
Oh, well, they give you so many breaks, and I also probably was guilty of the cramming technique a bit.
Yeah, fair one. And where did it? We're in the sea. We're doing the ocean recreational bit. How on earth did you end up taking it into caves?
Yeah, well, I am sort of probably best known and most keen on my cave diving, and in fact a specific niche of cave diving called sump diving. I knew quite early on that cave diving was a thing that I wanted to do. I did my initial training with ocean divers in Bentley, and they have a big kind of standing in cave diving. They do a lot of courses, and some of the instructors like Jane Bowman, who was my instructor, and Warwick McDonald, they operated out of the shop. And so even as I was doing my open water and advanced open water, there were pictures on the wall of people cave diving, and there were people in the shop that cave dived, and some of my other instructors were around cave diving. So it actually seemed like a pretty natural progression for me. And I remember even quite early on when I'd done 30 odd dives and hadn't done my advanced open water yet, that I looked at it and I went, I'm going to do that. Cave diving, that makes sense. Whereas a lot of other people, I think, sort of come around to it a bit more slowly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've tried. I think it's all extremely interesting, but I think I'm one of those divers that prefers the ocean. I've tried a few, a few little dips through the cenotes and stuff like that. It's all interesting, but it doesn't grab me as much as corals and fish. I suppose it's each to their own. But you just mentioned that your kind of flavour is pretty unique, being that of sump diving.
So yeah, sump diving is it's sort of a quantum leap, much the same as recreational diving to cave diving. It's probably a similar leap from cave diving to sump diving. So to get into cave diving, obviously there's quite a number of different courses. In Australia, the typical path is through the Cave Divers Association of Australia, the CDAA. So there's 3 levels, and then assorted experience building in between. There's a heap of good stuff to do at each level. Typically in Mount Gambier, so there's the crystal clear sinkholes, and it's sort of culminating up in the 7 kilometres of maze tunnels in Tank Cave. Mm-hmm. And then the Nullarbor sort of comes in there in the mid to high levels. And once you sort of achieve that advanced cave level, there's a lot more things open to you. And I'd done a bit of dry caving at uni, and dry caving is just sort of normal caving with abseiling and squeezing and climbing and walking. And I sort of put that on hold while I became a mad diver. Mm-hmm. And I went, I got a bit of exposure, and then was lucky enough to get in on some trips where we were combining diving and caving, and so that's the explanation of sump diving. Is it's the combination of cave diving and dry caving to further the cave.
Yeah.
So sump diving is. I'll go.
Go on. No, go on. Go.
So sump diving is an exploration tool. So generally, it's where we're not necessarily diving exactly for the fun of it, but we're diving to find or to access some more cave beyond the dive. And because you need to be an accomplished caver and a pretty gnarly cave diver, that really appealed to me because it was such a niche thing, and there were so few people doing it.
It is very, very niche, isn't it? I'm looking off camera at the moment. I'm trying to find it. The YouTube footage that you had up of, is it called Pot Belly or something like that? There's where the bloody hell is it? There was a cave that you've done 2.5, 3 minutes or whatever, just popping underwater and following through to try and find the end of a cave.
There's been quite a few different projects I've been involved with. Growling, Swallet, and Niggly Cave was a big project in Tasmania, and we ended up connecting these two caves via a dive. And so that was a fantastic example of sump diving, where we've got these two caves. It takes about 6 hours to get to the water either side, and the two caves are linked by 700 metres of flooded tunnel with a maximum depth about 25 metres, but average depth probably about 8. Yeah. So connecting those two together was a massive team effort with the Southern Tasmanian Caverniers down in Hobart. Each dive, there'd be 6 or so people, and everyone would put in a 12-ish hour day for that one diver to go and do a sort of 2-hour gnarly push dive at the end.
And what's the clarity like when you're in there? I mean, everyone would assume that it's much the same as it was in Lantian Caves and coffee brown murky water and can't see anything.
Yeah, you get a brief period on the way in of crystal clear, well, fairly clear water. But as soon as you touch anything, which you try not to, but as soon as your bubbles touch anything, you tend to get a cascade of silt off the ceiling. So a lot of the time you actually kind of look ahead, take a mental picture, and then the silt rains down, and that's sort of it for a while, and then you swim back into the clear water. So yeah, when you're push diving like that, where it's undisturbed, it's a real mental focus game, which is really cool. It's one of the things that I really like about it. Maybe not at the time, but in an overall sense of achieving something amazing.
It is, yeah, it certainly is amazing. And how do you, just going into the finer details of it, because you're descending, like you say, 25 metres to 8 metres on average. In coffee, how do you find your way through the murk to find the end goal that you're looking for? Is it literally fingertip, and if you come to a dead end, turn around, come back out and go another way?
Well, there's actually a really big emphasis on being able to see. And so if it's undisturbed, then you can see. You just got to swim fast enough to stay ahead of the silt cloud, which is actually it's okay. If you're swimming with the current coming towards you, then that's less of a deal. If you're doing a downstream sump, then you stop and the silt cloud goes ahead of you. That's obviously a bit harder, and so you've got to keep moving faster. Yeah. But setting the conditions for the best possible dive outcome is actually a key part of planning. So a good example is Sesame Cave, which has taken up probably a lot more than the energy I budgeted for. I've done two quite awful push dives in there over the last 2 years for not much cave. But the first one I did completely blind. So getting to the cave, it's a nasty series of wriggles in the water and walking in the mud, and it was completely coffee. And so it took the best part of half an hour to feel my way along about 40 metres. And I was quite worried about how long it would take to get out, so I was very conservative. Couldn't read my gauges the whole time, so I had to sort of kind of guess how much gas there was left, that was quite unpleasant. And it took me 2 minutes to get out, and I thought, wow, if that's the difference, it'd be much better being able to see where the big bit was. So I actually went back and we camped in the cave specifically so we could let the water clear overnight, and that created a whole huge series of logistics. But I can sort of honestly say that the dive is properly finished now. The diligence has been done. It didn't go, sadly, but we threw everything at it and did it properly, which is a big part of my satisfaction.
Yeah, and I the logistics and the teamwork involved in this must be satisfying within itself, even if you get a relatively dull ending to the dive.
It is, and it's actually quite fun being a supporting person, or I think so anyway. I've probably done most of the push diver role of late in the last few years, but I have been a support. It's quite a lot more fun because there's no pressure and everything else. But it's a great atmosphere, and I try and I plan a lot for these things, and plan it down into the finer details, like having a stove, sometimes even having music so we can chill out, and collecting all the little 1%ers to maximise the chance of success, and have fun, because it's when you're hauling a bag of someone else's dive gear out of the cave at midnight, it doesn't seem like much fun.
Yeah. Why the hell am I doing this for him?
Yeah, well, mate, I mean, it's meant to be for the good of everyone, and it's definitely the team shares all the glory, but there's certainly a lot sits on the push diver's shoulders.
Well, it does look. I mean, I'm just going to refer to was it a couple of weekends ago now when you found the deepest cave in Australia? Congratulations to you and the team.
Thanks. Yeah. That was a pretty cool thing. It wasn't diving related, so it was just a dry series of shafts. We abseiled down 350 odd meters, and we connected two of these deep caves together, and set a new record for Australia's deepest dry cave. Yeah. So it was a bit of a diversion. It sort of took a lot of the energy for the last 6 or 8 months. But it was a fantastic team exercise, and we managed to get 9 people involved in the connection trip, 8 of whom went all the way through in one cave and out the other. So that was it's just a fantastic experience to do and share with all those people.
Yeah. I must admit, those videos that are out there, I've been flicking through them all, and there seems to be a lot of fun and joviality going on while I'm watching it, and watching tiny people squeeze through tiny little holes. And all I can think of is I'd need a jackhammer and a hammer and chisel just to get halfway through this stuff. It's remarkable.
Yeah, well, the small stuff and the miserable stuff, we sort of do it. We don't really do it because we like it. We do it because there's something worth it on the other side. So there's a bit of it. I mean, when you're starting out with caving and diving, sometimes you'll do stuff just for the sake of it or for training. But it's one of the things I like about the exploration concept is that you don't have to do things the hard way, because we get to do things the easy way, and we make them as easy as we can, and it's still really hard. So that's also pretty satisfying.
I can imagine so. What was the actual depth of it? Because is it 401 meters or something like that?
Yeah, 401 is the figure. It's actually the new entrance is very close to the previous highest entrance. It's within 15 meters in 3D space, but it's 4 meters higher. So we know that it's definitely 4 meters higher. And the previous deepest cave was actually made in 3 years ago when I did that very well supported dive in in Niggly Cave to connect it to Growling Swallet.
Yeah.
And I probably should point out for everyone that the deepest cave in the world is 2,200 metres. The deepest cave in New Zealand is over 1,000. Our 401 metres is a bit piddly by world standards, but it's important to us. And we had a bit of fun naming. We named the cave Delta Variant, and we gave it a whole COVID theme. There's all sorts of silliness around that. But
I did notice there's a lot of Disney about it as well, eh? Yeah,
I did a Disney princesses theme for when we split up into different teams to make on the connection trip. So, as we were saying before, the silliness is important, and sometimes it's a case of faking it till you make it. Pretend you're having fun, and everyone actually kind of believes they're having fun.
Yeah, and they can revel in that fun when you're at the proverbial 19th hole of the golf course, eh? At the end of the day.
Yeah, some of these things are the fun is derived afterwards.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask you about that the Cocklebiddy Cave expedition, because that looks. I'm just looking in your catalogue there, and there's a photo there with all the DPVs and all the equipment. It looks like it was an amazing setup. How long did that one take to put together? Yeah,
Cocklebiddy, that's probably one of the pinnacles of my cave diving experience. So for those that don't know, Cocklebiddy Cave is on the Nullarbor. It's got about 6.5 kilometres of linear passage. So at the furthest point, you're 6.5 kilometres of diving from the entrance. At one stage, it was the longest underwater cave in the world, and most of it is big enough. You drive a truck through easily. There's bits of it you can fly a plane through. It's just so big and spectacular. And it's also got several dry chambers, which actually make the logistics really painful. So, a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, we, myself, Ryan Kachkowski, Liz Rogers, who, we go way back on different projects, we wanted to push the end. So that's the thing you do in cave exploration is you try and go a bit further than previous people have, building on their work, of course. So, to do that, we probably overdid it a bit, but it was that same concept I've talked about earlier of maximising your chances when you're actually there. So working back from that, you can get to the end in one day. It takes maybe 16 to 20 hours, so it's pretty massive, and you're out there at the pointy end, knowing that you've got to reserve a whole lot of energy for that return. And when you're trying to solve a complex logic puzzle underwater, trying to read the cave, see what's happening where, know where to look, because remembering you've got that couple of seconds before the visibility ceases. So so we said, all right, well, if we're going to achieve being in the best state of mind, we're going to camp in the cave as close as we can, and we're going to repeat the dive. So we camped in the cave as close as we could get. We camped in Toad Hall, which is about 3.5 kilometres in. We camped in there for 4 nights, and that meant we could do multiple dives out to the end. Okay. So we would do about a 6-hour dive in the final section from our camp, and that meant we could be fresh. We knew that it was only 2 hours diving to get back from the end to our camp, and we did other little things like we took in a projector. And so each night at our camp, we watched Indiana Jones. A projector on the wall. The sound was terrible, but it was a really, really cool thing to do, just to chill out and get ourselves in the mood. We had good sleep. We took in, because we had to take our own water, we didn't sort of have to worry too much about, other things. So we could take in drinks and food, and we cooked up good things, and and so we also had a huge mountain of stuff, and unfortunately that meant that we spent, I think we were on site for about 12 days, and we basically spent all except 3 days of wonderful diving in the middle, shifting about 500 kilos of gear from one place to another. Sometimes it was underwater, and we clipped it all together into a sled, and we towed it along with scooters, DPVs, and then we'd have to pull it apart, carry it over a rock pile, put it back together in the water again, and then tow it through the next section. Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure I've got another one of those in me, but I'm super glad that we did it. And the photos of the sled, Liz took some fantastic photos of towing this behemoth, and it's been made into memes on the internet, and it's really cool.
Yeah. No, it looks fantastic. It really does, and what an adventure! What's next?
Well, at the moment, it's been pretty weird with COVID. So the Nullarbor has been sort of off the table for me. It's 2 states over, and 30 hours driving. It's a big commitment. And I tend to get focused on a project, and I've been very focused on stuff in Tassie at the moment. So there's a particular cave system under Mount Field National Park, and it's called the Junee Florentine. People might be familiar with the Junee Cave Resurgence. It's got a little park reserve around it. And so that's the deepest caves in Australia. They're quite cold. They're 7 degrees, and there's also a lot of undived sumps. And so I've been going there for quite a while, and being not too far away, I've spent quite a lot of time there in between Melbourne lockdowns and COVID things. It's also close enough that I can fly there for a weekend without it being too horrendous. So I've got a list of sumps I've been working through and diving. Had some great successes, and there's a few left, a few things to wrap up. But it's really good, high quality exploration. You find stuff, nobody's ever been there, and you get to name it, which is strangely one of the things I quite like is naming things.
Yeah. I hear you. It's certainly unique. What does it actually? Can you express the feeling of diving through somewhere that no one's been or seen ever before?
I'd like to give it lots of wonderful airy terms, but honestly, it's usually just a bit scary and alone. A lot of maybe not. It's controlled fear. That's a useful thing, but it's perhaps absorbing is a good word, because you've got so much going on, so much focus, that there isn't sort of too much time for thinking about philosophies and stuff. So yeah, perhaps a lot of the satisfaction is afterwards when you're back and safe and everything.
Yeah, I suppose the mental come down is quite big as well, isn't it? Your focus, like you say, you just mentioned focus there, must be extremely on point while you're doing this, and then afterwards maybe tiring.
A little bit, but obviously you've got to get yourself out. So and it's surprising there's very little sympathy when everyone's been sitting around shivering for a couple of hours. It's 7 degrees in there, and a lot of the time you get quite wet just getting to the dive site. Yeah. So you come back and right, we're going. Hurry up, get changed. You want to? Here you go. Have a quick hot drink. Don't take too long.
Get in here. Let's go.
Yeah. But it's certainly a relief to get back. I probably should mention I've alluded to solo diving, which is a bit of a contentious topic, and actually something that I would recommend most people don't do. Obviously, it's got assorted implications. Suffice to say that I consider it a tool. It's a tool for a job, and a fairly specialised tool for a specialised job. practically speaking, with sump diving, a lot of the time you just can't get gear for two people to the water. And probably more importantly, if it's going to be tight and low visibility, which is, a fairly safe bet, it's actually safer not to have somebody else getting in the way.
Yeah.
And of course, we plan and train and mentally prepare for self-sufficiency. So there's a whole series of things around it before anyone sort of puts me up on a cross or anything.
Yeah. Oh, there's always armchair warriors, and there's going to be cavers out there that clearly know a lot more about the business than I do. However, I think you hit the nail on the head there, because even for a recreational diver like myself, it just makes common sense that if you've got two people in tandem and you're going through squeezes that have never been seen before, then your visibility is going to go to dog shit, and that possibly can be an issue just in itself, let alone having someone that gets in your way as well.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's definitely not for everyone. In fact, it's quite interesting to see the reaction of people when you sort of tell them what you do, and it's not just so. Recreational divers, they're probably worse than the general public, because the general public sort of doesn't have the fear of knowledge, whereas recreational divers, they sort of go, oh wow, they really feel it, that all those extra things that you're doing while you're underwater. So yeah, get a few strange looks from them, and also the cavers actually, because they understand the caving side of things. They sort of go, oh wow, you're going to do all this, and then you're going to dive as well. So you sort of become a bit of a pariah in both worlds. It certainly makes me very tolerant of other people's weirdnesses.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got an aptly named T-shirt there, Introverts. I think. Oh
yeah, it actually says Introverts Unite separately in your own homes. So I am a well-known introvert, but I do all right with talking to people as well. The pandemic was I was reasonably well suited to that.
Yeah, I didn't mind it, to be honest. A couple of years of not being out and busying around all over the place. I quite enjoyed the first 6 to 8 months, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I feel very lucky to be able to say that I did okay through it. I know a lot of people struggled very bad. Yeah. My missus was climbing a wall. So wanted to get out and go all over the place. Yeah. And we got put in touch by Sue, who was on the podcast last week, and you're going to be down at the OZTek Dive Show in October. Yes, and I did actually in preparation, and as a good thing to do, I listened to Sue's podcast yesterday, and it was great. It was actually really interesting to find out about someone in a bit more detail than you normally get. Yeah, so it's really good. And I'll be at OZTek. I'm a bit of a regular, and I was lucky enough to be awarded the Emerging Explorer last OZTek. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Right. So that was pretty cool. I mean, OZTek's a big deal. Definitely in the technical diving community, but just generally in diving, it's really cool. Yeah. So I wouldn't miss it, and I'll be talking about. I'll be doing 2 presentations. Mm-hmm. One of which is about general stuff I've been doing since last OZTek. There's quite a bit of it, so I'll just sort of go here and there and everywhere. And then the other one it'll come out on the program. So are you? Do you know where you're placed in the program? You know if you're talking on a Saturday or Sunday or both? Not sure. I don't think it's come out yet. Yeah. I've had a few things happening, but I'll definitely be in there at some point. I think they do it as a bit of a secret, so you can't plan which day you're going to go. If the general public, I want to go and see Stephen Fordyce talk. Oh, what day's he on? Not sure. Yeah, got to get both tickets. It's fantastic that I always go and have trouble figuring out what to see. There's so many different people with so many different passions, and I don't necessarily have scope to go
and do all of the stuff. Like deep wreck diving and other things. It's not sort of my something that I do, but it's really cool seeing people that do it, and also people that record it as well. So I'm quite passionate about properly recording and documenting what you're doing. So one of the things with a push dive is that it's not over when you turn around. You do all the problem solving and finding the way on and laying the line as you go in, and then when you turn around and come out, you've got to actually survey and map the line on your way back. So every time the line changes directions, we record the depth, compass bearing, and the distance from the previous one. We put knots in our guideline and are able to do that, and then we can plot that later to see where the cave's going. So
just thinking on then, you're doing all that and doing it by knots and lines. What about the 3D photography stuff that Matty Carter and Bottom Line Projects and that do on wrecks? Would that not work inside some of the sumps that you go?
It probably would, but it's sort of making it a whole lot more complicated than it needs to be. It's actually not that big of a deal to do the survey. Okay. Once you get the practice and have the mindset for it, and I think the photogrammetry stuff needs good visibility and plenty of photos.
Yeah.
I dare say one day that they'll be able to take a GoPro, a shaky GoPro footage, and turn it into a full 3D map. But my understanding is that's a bit of a way away yet.
Yeah. I suppose it just adds to the equipment that you're taking in with you as well, doesn't it?
That too. Everything's carried such a long way. It gets fairly carefully culled.
Yeah. No, that's understandable. Yeah, so OZTek, I must admit, I'm really looking forward to OZTek. The last one I went to was I think it was 2018 when I first visited Australia, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I'm looking forward to this one as well, and I'm going for the full 2 days. Are you doing the decompression party afterwards as well?
Oh, yeah, yep, definitely. Yeah. That's that's probably the best place for mixing with people.
Yeah,
and OZTek's really cool because it's the one sort of the one event where you get everyone. The Western Australians come over and the New Zealanders come over. Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide. Everyone sort of generally makes the effort. Other stuff like the Cave Divers Symposium in Mount Gambier. Obviously, you get the cave divers, but you don't get the wreck divers.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily get the West Australians. So OZTek, it's the spot if you want to bail someone up or catch up or ask a question or have a quiet word to someone.
Oh, mate, I'm gonna be wandering around with the camera and the microphone. I'm just gonna be asking a million questions.
Ah, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and anyone who doesn't want to be on camera, tough.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I heard on Sue's podcast that they're recording them all the presentations this year.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I'm gonna have to watch what I say though.
They could never have me on stage. I swear too much. And you've got nothing coming up this year. What about with TFM?
Few odds and ends. I've got a few more Tassie trips planned, and I dare say I'll spend a couple of weeks over January in Tassie. I've been doing that the last few years, and it's really good to get a good go at it.
Yeah.
It's quite hard, obviously. So if you go for a weekend or even a long weekend, you really only get one solid day, and then you're too wrecked to do much else. We'll do a half day or a moderate day, but the big caving projects are quite one day, and then you need a rest day.
Yeah.
Last January we did discover a new section at the end of Niggly Cave, and get up there. This is Sophie the cat, friend of introverts. So at the end of Niggly Cave, we've been hitting it for sort of 5 or 6 years. It's a spectacular cave. It's got 2 kilometres of railway tunnel right at the bottom. It's 300 metres below the entrance.
Wow.
And we're just... we know it goes. We know it's got another 5 kilometres before it comes out, the Juni resurgence. And it should be just as big. But there's a big rock pile at the end. And, it's 40 metres high, and it's got all sorts of little squirrely bits going around it. So we've been sort of systematically getting in there and trying to map the little bits and push separate leads. Probably a lot of people have come and gone. There's a few of us that still kind of keep ticking along. And last January we found a sump, and it's named the Biohazard Sump. It's really not very pleasant. It's not a very pleasant area. Yeah, but it could be something really cool. So it's probably going to be the most remote sump dive I've done in Tassie, and we definitely will spend 3 nights underground to make that happen.
Why is it called the Biohazard Sump?
It's actually, sometimes you've got to be careful with your naming history, but this one is because Gemma, one of the discoverers, cut her finger on a rock, and we saw the droplets of blood before we saw the cut. And so someone said, "Oh, it's a bit of a biohazard." So I mean, the naming is part of the fun.
Yeah.
Because I went through a phase of naming a whole section after Game of Thrones characters. There's a chamber called the Business Class Lounge.
Yes.
I managed to score a business class flight to Tassie that trip, and I was quite miffed that Hobart didn't have a business class lounge, so I gave them one. You just got to go. And I don't think. No, I'm the only visitor. So and then if you go past the business class lounge, you
get to the chairman's lounge.
No, you climb the corporate ladder, which is a particularly awful slippery climb. And if you get a bit further, you hit the glass ceiling, which is at the end. And unfortunately, I couldn't get past there. I tried very hard, but a bit further back down in Boston, I've messed it up now. A bit further in the business class lounge, there's a horrible little hole, and it's with a puddle in it. Yeah. And if you crawl in backwards with one tank off, that's how you get into this sump. And then you sort of turn around and go on. And that's the lateral higher sump, because once you pass that, you surface into nice big streamway passage called Bossland.
Nice.
Yeah. Then after that, the theme changed, and it got less good. Eventually, that ends in the Bin Chicken Haven.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's the video I saw on YouTube. Bin Chicken.
Oh yeah. There was a whole. The theme song of that trip was the Ibis song, or a song about birds by Bondi hipsters. Look it up; it's quite amusing. It's also got some terrible language. But we tend to have theme songs for the trips, especially a longer camping trip like that. So it's a bit weird, but I'd like to think it helps with morale and helps distract people. So I'll pick a song, and I'll just generally play it a lot. The idea is to get it stuck in people's heads, so they think about that rather than how difficult the caving is. Yeah,
I had a habit years ago where if I was leading dives, I'd just start whistling on the deck as we're gearing up, and the amount of people by the end of a liverboard would comment that they'd have the Star Wars tune going through their head, or Wizard of Oz or something like that through the entire dive, and they couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah. It's good. It's good fun.
Yeah, but no, that bin chicken video, I like that one. It's it kind of shows that sump diving and then coming out the other side, and the way it just all opens up.
Yeah, that was a fantastic day actually. After sort of given up on the business class lounge. It wasn't really worth the effort and the sort of the cost of negotiating everyone into carrying all the dive gear down.
Yeah.
But it was actually on the trip where we connected Growling, Swallet and Niggly together. So I had all the full dive gear kit down there, and I realised that I could probably go back and have another look at the business class lounge.
Mm-hmm.
So having that second look, ended up breaking through and going into. I ended up doing a really long day. I think I got back at midnight, back to camp in the cave at midnight. Found a whole lot of really cool stuff. Just really sad that it didn't go. It ended in rockfall that I couldn't find a way through.
Yeah, and that's a sizable. That's the one that's on the video, right? The rockfall.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
But possibly, my favourite part of that trip was as I came back to camp and everyone was asleep, I started singing the bird song about the ibises. Yeah. And I actually managed to insert myself into one of the guys' dream. So he started having a weird dream about ibises and me and caving things, and and then he woke up really confused as I walked in.
Yeah. Oh, bloody
yeah.
That's marvellous. Okey-dokey. Right, I think I'm going to have to scoot in a second. I'm parked out the front, and with the delays that we had at the start, I'm going to end up getting a bloody big ticket. TFM, let's have a little bit more about TFM, because let's plug your business, man.
Oh yeah. Shameless plug. So
plug
TFM Engineering is the small business that I pivoted to when the real world got a bit too annoying. I was doing more and more project management, big annoying things with bureaucracy and paperwork rather than actually making cool stuff. TFM Engineering is a vessel that I can use to pursue all sorts of different things. So I design electronics or build gas systems, aftermarket stuff for compressors, bits and pieces. It's kind of whatever I want it to be. I do have a big catalogue which people can find with all sorts of diving odds and ends, and I do bespoke things as well, which is a bit of fun too.
50 pages catalogue. It's impressive, mate.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, it's quite out of date. It's 2017, and I haven't had a chance to redo it because it's such a big job, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. But it does the job for now.
Yeah. And there's quite a few products in here that you've designed, eh?
Yeah. Not everything. Some stuff is specialist buy and sell, but I like to think I've at least added value to most things, and some of them I've developed from scratch.
Yeah. Just having a look at the boosters. That looks pretty swish.
Yep. Yeah, I do hoses and kits and things. I'm probably more focused on not being tied to any particular brands.
Yeah.
It's just sort of easier. It's a good niche a little niche that I fill.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot in this, just going through it, there's a lot in this catalogue that operators will want pieces that they can't find anywhere. I reckon it's going to be in this catalogue, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, it's obscure little things that are hard to find, which I've had trouble finding as well.
Yeah. Oh, good on you. Okay, mate. I think we'll wrap it up there, and I'll bugger off before I get a parking fine out the front.
Very good.
Where can people find details of TFM and yourself and all the good stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, probably Facebook's the best one. You'll find TFM Engineering Australia. Search for that, or Stephen Fordyce. You'll figure out how to spell it somehow. It should be in the thing somewhere. Hit me up. The ordering for TFM is generally by sending an email. I kind of like the old-fashioned way of connecting with people and, managing, make suggestions, everything else. But yeah, you can find me all sorts of places.
Happy days. And we can put links in the show notes, and maybe we have a chat later, and I'll chuck a link up on our website or something for you as well.
Fantastic, yeah.
Happy days. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to meeting you in person in October and maybe having a beer on the Sunday evening as well, eh?
Yes, indeed. All right, mate. It's been a pleasure.
I'll see if I can put a T-shirt together with an introvert sign on it. There we go.
Yeah, very good.
Awesome sauce. Thanks, Stephen. And once again, congratulations on your achievements, and big congratulations out to the team as well. Fantastic.
Thanks, Matt. It's great to talk.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye for now.
This is Scuba Goat Under the Sea, the podcast for the inquisitive diver.